name is Jean-Yves Tinevez, and I would like to share with you our, let's say, more or less recent experience with actually setting up what say look like a national core facility for bioimage analysis, under the auspices of France Bioimaging, part of Euro-BioImaging. I will just, in the next, let's say, 15 minutes or so, just tell you how we got there and can let you see what works and what doesn't work, right? And so I'd like to start with this survey that was led by my good colleagues and friends Kota Miura more than 10 years ago. And he asked, what's your main bottleneck in your imaging-based research? And mainly the people that answer were life scientists, and they say like image analysis, right? Which is not a surprise for anyone here, I guess. But people reacted to that. And in France, bioimaging, for instance, where we evaluated our users, they voiced the same concern. They say basically, microscopy is very good, but how do we address image analysis? So people took actions, and I think it's the case everywhere, but particularly in France, you would find now that in many core facility for microscopy, particularly light microscopy, for instance, you would have an engineer, in French we have this research engineer positions, an analyst, someone dedicated to image analysis. But at the same time, it's kind of the golden age for image analysis, right? There are new tools, new techniques, new algorithms that are developed almost like weekly or monthly. It's really hard for one person to master them all. And in a core facility, you have to address all the requests that come to you, right? You cannot specialize too much. And so the first, actually, the kick-starting event that started the initiative I will present you now, called FBIAS, was that, right? How do you offer to the analysts that work in France and that are typically the only analyst in a team, a professional network on which they can capitalize to improve their skills, right? And the main goal of FBIAS, the France Bioimage Analyst, was really that. Help each other, get your user project done quickly, and let's improve our skills together. And today, let's say, worked, I let you decide, but we went a little bit beyond and say, okay, how do we capitalize to actually offer remote bioimage analysis services? That's what I'd like to talk about, right? Quickly, this is us today. We started with 10 persons in 2021, end of 2021. And now there's 23 of us with two recent additions of Nicolas and Sébastien, actually really recently. And so you see this is roughly us and where we are located. The situation looks invariable, but remember in the beginning, there was typically one person per team and so on. And FBIAS, our mission was happening, like if I have to put it along the timeline like this, mid-2021 was building FBIAS as a professional network dedicated to analysts working in core facilities and fostering the development of the skills and accelerating the projects they are in charge of. And in the second step, try to build a national core facility for bioimaging analysis, right? So if I start, with this one, phase one, what it looks like is, it was just after the COVID-induced lockdown, and we started by building a small community with ourselves, right, and put together a specific policy and a few tools. And the tools were simply remotely discussing, right? We put a website, but mainly online chat, private, dedicated to us, so that we could quickly exchange about what's our need. My users ask me to do that. How could I know what would work, what doesn't work, and so on. So really that you get quick feedback from your peers, right? And it looks like this. Here, I took a picture of my activities. I said, hey, I'm preparing a beta of TrackMate. Do you want to test it? Maybe it could be useful to you, and so on. In reality, what it amounts to these members, to the members of FBIAS is this, right? You are isolated in a team dedicated to microscopy, but then suddenly you have access to the expertise of 22%. That's really valuable. And for this to work, we actually set up a policy that kind of looks, I would say, strange. If you think so, right, bioimage analysis is a very open domain. People are very communicated, but we said that the meetings are private. We forbid bosses to join initially, no users. We keep everything confidential to actually facilitate exchange. Like, people would not be afraid of, speaking, and then, there would no deviation from techniques. Everything would be focused, every discussions, every word would be focused on technology and techniques, no policy, no nothing. I was really, really appreciated because, that was the end of the COVID-induced crisis. Everybody was this Zoom fatigue of online meetings and so on. And it's showed to the members that we would respect the time. So once we had that, actually, we started to know each other quite well. We started meeting each other in on-site events, and we actually acted as a team. And we thought, what about we capitalize on this team to actually deliver bioimage analysis service to researchers in France? Because this, what you see here, that's initial pictures where you have a core facility or an institute that has one analyst. Actually, that's the lucky ones. There are many research institutes where there's simply no analyst. Right? That's like the dark matter of the bioimage analysis universe. This is the persons we wanted to address, talk to, and help. Right? And so we simply did that. Right? We had initially FBIAS as a means to create a professional network, capitalize on people's expertise, make a team, and then now capitalize on these teams to deliver service, right? And that's what I would like to talk to you about now. And so when you provide bioimage analysis service, after the very impressive talk just before us, you see that there are several things you can offer to your scientific community. And so we started by being very cautious, and we started offering what I call consultations, right? So that's typically public sessions that are open to researchers. You can book a slot of 1 hour, and in this hour you can say, okay, I have this issue with image analysis. I would like to do that. I just started doing the acquisitions about that. How do you analyze that? Then you have about 2 to 3 analysts that join the sessions that try to advise you. Now, we were also kind of strict about the policy we established. They would not try to give you only advice, right? They would be in charge of also prototyping and testing the advice you give. So that means that the user would send confidentially images. And so when you say, oh, you want to try TrackMate on that, we actually download the image, try TrackMate, and tell it works, it doesn't work, right? And so in parallel, you would have 2, 3 analysts that would work on your project and give you advice. Or more recently, because the team grew a little bit, there's more than 2, 3 analysts per session. Sometimes there's 6 people trying to address your problem in parallel, right? So if you think about it, that's a bit strange. Why would an institute, someone that hire an analyst, be okay allocating the analyst time to address the challenge of someone else, right? Someone beyond that. Well, there was some discussion about that. There are incentives for that. I'll come back to that in a moment. But what was key was to say, okay, we keep this really in a clear and defined scope. We say, okay, you have 60 minutes with us. We do everything we can in 60 minutes, but that's really 60 minutes. So please respect that and so on. And then it worked. And one of the nice things I would say is that there's an additional there's a collateral benefit for the analyst, right? Okay, so basically, sorry, this slide is just how it works. If you're researchers, you would simply post on a website, says, I want to book this slot at that time, that's my issue, the images are here. Then when I say we, I see most of the time in my excellent colleague, Anne-Sophie Massé from the Institut will actually sort them and build a group of 3 or more analysts, and then we would meet on site and so on. That's, for instance, the flyer we use. This has been, honestly, personally, if I say this is my piece of joy in the past year, it's been very happy place, and the feedback we receive from the users has been really positive, of course, because they didn't have access to an analyst at all. And so they were very supportive of our effort and very positive about that. That was really great. But also what we found out is that this was also really valued by analysts, because when you have 3 to 5 people working on a project, you learn from the others and say, okay, I'm going to try QPass, I'm going to try Cytomine, I'm going to try TrackMate and so on. This works, this doesn't work. And so again, even if we provide services, this is another means of improving the skills of analysts, right? Right, so this was the phase 2, right? But what happened if you have a user, and that's most of the case, unfortunately, if the user question cannot be addressed 1 hour, right? 1 hour is short, even if you strive for efficiency, sometimes like image analysis questions have ambitions, right? They take large. And so the typical things you would do in any core facility is to provide, let's say, a collaborative project. And so you say, okay, you as a user give us a project and something long, something more involved. Then in the group of FBIs, we act as a project selection committee and say, okay, this is doable. I feel like this is doable. And then we would designate one analyst to actually accept the project and do it, like, and work on it asynchronously. Right? And so this project has shown, before I know it can be 50 hours, 100 of hours effort per year, right? It's quite involved. And now you have the challenge of having resources. I don't know how it's beyond France, but in France, I can tell you this, right? The amount of analysts that are available on the scientific market, if you want, compared to the needs for these analysts is completely unbalanced. We are all saturated. And so here we would just create a means to add more work. And I don't think that would work like this with our, like, let's say, our bosses, right? Where we are really be lucky is that the people in France bioimaging, they believed in us, they thought that it could work, and actually they leveraged some funds, and we could hire these excellent colleagues here, Arthur and Marie, that were actually dedicated to this project, right? And so there was an agreement between the Institute and France Bioimaging help us. But then suddenly, people from the Institute, the host Institute, they could say, okay, there's something for us too, right? And so the people give and people receive. And so that's great. That really help us unlocking this problem. Of course, now that you have people working for a long time, you need to put a billing system, a recharge system, like to avoid scope drift and project management issues. And the select project selection committee, we simply use the teams that we have, right? Alors, briefly, examples of the project we had, like in 2024, we started, let's say early 2024, and immediately got 8 project requests. Today, 5 of them are completed. 2 we could not do, actually. But the ones we could do look like this. This is a project of Arthur where I had to track fishes in, let's say, dense tanks and so on. It's for what we call in French bien-être animal. It's checking that the fishes are healthy and early detections of diseases. And so for us, that was completely new. The output of this project was actually Arthur comparing all of the existing non-invasive solutions and making a report to the researcher and say, okay, you want to use this technique and this is the accuracy you can hope for in that case, with state-of-the-art tools. And the second outcome of this was that the data generated in this short project could actually be used with for a grant proposal, with French researchers as a preliminary data and support the grant, right? Another project involving this time electron microscopy was this one, where what you see here, it's a mesh generated from transmitted electron microscopy of a cell. And you see all the small holes that you see here in white, that's fenestrae. And the goal of the project was to build a pipeline that could automatically measure the number and the size and the shape of this. So what Sun did was to create a regularization method that would project it on 2D with minimal deformation and actually perform the analysis here. And here the outcome was the deployment of these techniques to the user's lab. The same here, that's a project of Marie, what she did for a research group in the Hôpital Necker near where we work. The goal was to make a tool that would automatically detect these holes. You see, these are red blood cells, and there's a small poke here, a small hole, and it would automatically detect it. And again, like Marie tested a wide range of solutions, identify one based on YOLO, and make a tool that she deployed to the lab, and she trained the user to use it, right? So this is, typically what we can do. And like if you're researchers working in France, I have a clear message. We are in the capacity of accepting more of these projects, right? Don't hesitate to contact us directly. We'll be happy to help you or to join one of our open desk. That will be glad, right? I'm reaching the end of my talk. Basically, if I have to summarize, the main outcome would be the following, right? And so now the people working in France, they have the access to the expertise of 23 now, 23 analysts. And it's good because we have like different expertise. And I think that with this amount of people, we cover a rather wide range of bioimage analysis techniques. And it's been really helpful to researchers and of course people that do not have an analyst yet in the institute. And that's linked to the last part, I come to that. Something I don't define and that we didn't realize is that if you are researchers, you do not necessarily know who to talk to, who would be the expert on the technique or another. But here you have something which is a single entry point, right? And so if you say, okay, I need expertise in histopathology and image analysis, and so we say, okay, so this is, this project and this consultation is going to be done with my excellent colleague Thierry Pecot, for instance, right? And for us, it's been really great because there's too many tools, there's too many papers for one person to know. It would be hubris to think you can. And now each of us has access to the expertise of others, and it's been really great. And here I put it's fun, right? I guess we are between each other, but it's true. One of the main drive to stay, it's fun because we are a good team. And also we get to talk to people that never you have an analyst, right? And they always come with projects that are completely original, unsuspecting. It's very refreshing, like in the work of a research engineer where you have to process. I would say it's very refreshing. Like, my humble opinion is that it worked. And why? I think it works mainly because of the following, right? We, in France, the research institute like CNRS or INSERM are very big and they are national institutes, right? And so even if they found positions in different institutes, they operate nationally. And automatically with our job, with our positions, we get immediately incentives to contribute to national infrastructures or national initiatives, right? So we didn't face too many resilience or resistance from our bosses or institutes when we say, okay, we are going to dedicate time beyond this institute to support France, right? And the same, right? Our host core facilities, they really helped us a lot. They facilitated the work, establishing a recharge system was complicated, but they help us a lot. They say, okay, no problem to allocate, time from the analyst. We get something in the return, right? Again, like for INSEM, the support of your France bioimaging umbrella really helped. The people were incredibly supportive, not only in putting resources, funds, but also on providing, let's say, easiness and contact with people. Okay, and finally, I probably cannot understate this, right? We could recruit the 22 analysts because we promised them that we would use their time to really focus on their skills, right? On progressing the skills, owning the skills, and learning new technologies and so on. And we put first forward that this is what they would find if they contribute to FBS. And finally, I think that it also worked because our group is small, 22 people, there's typically 10 to 15 persons present at every meeting. It's not so large that you cannot know each other personally, right? So that would work. Right, thank you very much for your attention. This is what I wanted to say here. I want to thank all the members of FBI. It's been really great, but also the really great people that help us setting us this facility here. Recently, we put a preprint together that we updated recently where we actually tell the story I gave you with much more details like statistics and so on that you can find here. And I thank you very much for your time and attention.